It starts with a photograph of someone who doesn't exist. You're sitting in a basement room in Moscow, and your instructor slides a file across the table. Inside is a birth certificate, a passport, a driver's license, school transcripts, medical records, dental x-rays. All of them belong to a man named David Miller. David Miller was born in Toledo, Ohio. He had an unremarkable childhood. His parents died in a car accident when he was 19. No siblings, no living relatives. No one left to contradict the story. Your instructor tells you to memorize everything. Not just the facts, the feelings. What did David's mother smell like? What was his favorite meal as a child? What song did his father whistle while mowing the lawn? You have to know these things instinctively, the way you know your own memories. Because they are your memories now. Your real name, the one your mother gave you in a hospital in Sverdlovsk, is being erased. Not from records. Records can be destroyed easily. It's being erased from you. For the next 14 months, no one calls you by your real name. No one speaks Russian in your presence. You eat American food. You watch American television. You read American newspapers. You practice American idioms until they feel natural. You learn to say gonna instead of going to. You learn to tip 20%. You learn that Americans smile at strangers and that the smile means nothing. You become David Miller the way water becomes the shape of its container. Slowly. Completely. Without leaving a trace of what it was before. They send you to Canada first, a buffer. A place to build the legend before entering the target country. You rent an apartment in Toronto under David Miller's name. You get a job at a small consulting firm. You pay taxes. You make friends with your neighbors. You adopt a cat because single men with cats seem less threatening. You attend a church you don't believe in because David Miller was raised Methodist. You date a woman named Sarah, who works at a bookstore. She is not an agent, she is not a target. She is just a woman who likes you because you're quiet and polite and you remember her coffee order. You sleep with her and feel nothing except relief that your cover is holding. Your handler contacts you once a month through a dead drop in a park near the harbor. You leave a chalk mark on a mailbox. 3 days later, you collect a message from behind a loose brick in a wall near the library. The messages are short. Continue. Establish deeper roots. Prepare for relocation. You don't know what the mission is yet. You don't need to know. Your mission right now is to be David Miller. Nothing more. 2 years in, they move you to the United States, a mid-sized city in the Midwest. The kind of place where people don't ask too many questions because everyone already knows everyone. You get a job as an IT consultant. You join a gym. You volunteer at a food bank. Because David Miller is the kind of person who volunteers. You meet a woman named Karen at a neighborhood barbecue. She teaches 3rd grade. She laughs at your jokes. She doesn't know your jokes were scripted by an intelligence officer who studied American humor patterns. You marry her 11 months later. The wedding is small. Her parents attend. Yours don't because David Miller's parents are dead. You stand at the altar and say vows you don't mean to a woman you don't love in a country that isn't yours. The ring feels heavy on your finger, not because of the metal, because of what it represents. Another layer of fiction wrapped around whatever is left of you. 5 years in, you have a son. His name is James. He has your eyes, which are also David Miller's eyes, which are also the eyes of a man born in Sverdlovsk whose name you haven't spoken aloud in 6 years. You hold your son in the hospital, and something happens that your training didn't prepare you for. You feel something real. Not David Miller's programmed affection. Something underneath it, something that doesn't belong to any cover identity. You push it down. You have to. The mission doesn't accommodate real feelings. Your handler's messages have changed. They're more specific now. Attend this conference, befriend this engineer, get invited to this facility, report on this contractor's security protocols. You're being positioned. The years of normalcy were groundwork. The real operation is beginning. You start asking questions at work that seem casual but aren't. You take photographs of documents that cross your desk. You copy files onto devices that look like ordinary thumb drives but transmit encrypted bursts. to a satellite your target country doesn't know exists. You're good at this. You've always been good at this. The problem is, you're also good at being David Miller. Too good. 8 years in, your son calls you dad, and you respond without thinking. Your wife touches your shoulder, and you lean into it without calculating. You know your neighbors' birthdays. You know which parents at the school pickup are getting divorced. You remember the name of your wife's college roommates and her dog. These aren't operational details anymore. They're memories. Real ones. Yours. The line between David Miller and whoever you were before has become so thin you can't always find it. Some mornings you wake up, and for a few seconds you don't know which language you're thinking in. Your handler notices the drift. The messages become warnings. Remember your duty. Remember who you serve. Remember that everything around you is operational architecture, not life. You read the messages and nod. You tell yourself they're right. Then your son asks you to teach him to ride a bicycle, and you spend an afternoon running beside him on a suburban sidewalk, and the messages from Moscow feel like they were written for someone else. 12 years in, something breaks. Not your cover. You. A colleague from the old program gets arrested. Not in your city, across the country. But the news travels through channels you monitor. FBI counterintelligence found him through a financial trace. His wife didn't know. His children didn't know. They watched him get handcuffed on their front lawn while neighbors filmed it on their phones. The children were American citizens, born here, raised here. They spoke no Russian. They didn't understand what was happening. You read the report and think about James. He's 11 now. He plays baseball. He wants to be a veterinarian. He thinks his father is an IT consultant from Toledo who doesn't like talking about his childhood because losing his parents was hard. Everything your son knows about you is a lie. And if they come for you, the way they came for your colleague, James will learn the truth the same way. On his front lawn, on camera, in handcuffs, you start making contingency plans. Not for escape. Your training covered escape. You start making plans for your son, where he would go, who would take care of him, how to explain what his father really is. You realize this is the first time you've planned for someone else's future instead of the mission's future. You realize this means you're compromised in a way no dead drop message can fix. 15 years in, you make a decision, not a dramatic one, not a defection. You simply stop being as effective. You miss a dead drop. You file a report with fewer details than you should. You avoid the conference where the target engineer will be present. You tell your handler the opportunity wasn't viable. He doesn't believe you. You can tell from the tone of the next message. But what can they do? Send someone to confront you? That risks exposing the entire network. Replace you? You can't be replaced. 15 years of cover can't be rebuilt. You are simultaneously their most valuable asset and their biggest vulnerability. You use that leverage the way your instructors taught you to use leverage, quietly. Without ever acknowledging it exists. You coach your son's baseball team. You take your wife to dinner on Fridays. You mow the lawn and wave at your neighbors and live the life that was supposed to be camouflage but became the only real thing you have. 20 years in, you receive a message that changes everything. 2 words. Come home. You stare at the message for an hour. Home. You try to picture the apartment in Sverdlovsk. You try to remember your mother's face. You try to remember the name you were born with. It takes you longer than it should. You look around the kitchen. James is in college now. Pre-veterinary studies. Karen is grading papers at the table. The cat died 2 years ago, but there's a new one sleeping in the same spot on the couch. The mortgage is almost paid off. This is home. This kitchen, this woman, this life that was built on lies but filled itself with truth when you weren't paying attention. You don't go home. You burn the message and the dead drop protocol and the encryption device hidden in a compartment behind the furnace. You sever the only connection to whoever you were before David Miller existed. You sit at the kitchen table across from your wife and she asks you what's wrong and you say nothing. Just a long day. She believes you because after 20 years she has no reason not to. You are David Miller now, completely, irreversibly. The man from Sverdlovsk is gone. Not dead, just dissolved, absorbed into a fiction that became more real than the truth ever was. You don't feel free. You don't feel relieved. You feel like a man standing in a house that might not be his, married to a woman who loves someone who doesn't technically exist, raising a son whose entire understanding of his own history is fabricated. You are the lie that told itself so many times it forgot it was lying. And somewhere, right now, in a basement room in Moscow, an instructor is sliding a file across a table. Inside is a birth certificate, a passport, a driver's license. All of them belong to someone who doesn't exist yet. The recruit sitting across from him is young, eager, believes this is about serving something larger than himself. The instructor tells him to memorize everything, not just the facts, the feelings. The recruit nods. He doesn't know that the real danger isn't getting caught. The real danger is that the person he's about to become will feel more real than the person he already is. The file opens. The erasure begins.